So hello, everybody. I'm back with the gifted leader, the leader next door, and I'm blessed and so excited to be here with Jennifer Jost today. Jennifer and I actually recently met at the Engaging Speakers Conference, and I reached out to her for a couple reasons. One of them was because her story was just so riveting, and I don't know, we all think that we've had a tough road and a tough thing to get overcome, and that's true for all of us. We all have our crosses to bear, right? But I think Jennifer's is just an incredible story and such a great story of rising from the ashes. So I reached out to her because of that. I also reached out and started working with her and have been having just unbelievable results. But before we get into that, I'd like to introduce Jennifer. Jennifer, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Louie. This is going to be so fun.
It is. I'm excited. So what I'd like you to start with, and the thing that was so gripping for me, was at the Engaging Speakers when we were in a breakout room together and you shared a little bit of your story. Would you share your story with the listeners today, please?
Absolutely. I'll give you the high level view because I could go into the weeds as we all can on our story, right?
Right.
So I'm sure many of you can relate. Raised in a dysfunctional household, alcoholic home, came up with wonderful coping tools that didn't really go together with my life and my passion and everything. Stepped right in from that alcoholic childhood into an alcoholic marriage at the age of 19. And I had my son, Nicholas, at the age of 21, my daughter, Cherie, at the age of 24. We owned a couple businesses, homes, looked great from the outside, the all-American family, doing well. On the inside, I was dying completely. I'm sure some of you can relate to that as well. I got to the place where I just couldn't breathe, and I didn't know why I couldn't breathe. I literally was gasping for air. So I started going to church, went to therapy, tried to do everything I could, and then I knew I just really needed to get a divorce. So I filed for divorce. It did not go well. It was 6 months of pure hell. He kidnapped my kids. It was just horrible. And at the end of it all, it does not end well. It was an 11-hour hostage negotiation day. And at the end of the 11th hour, he was given a 10-minute ultimatum to come out of the house. He had my children at gunpoint all day. And after 10 minutes, 3 shots were fired. And he did take the lives of my children and himself. Whew. And that was many, many years ago. And I lost my 8-year-old son, Nicholas, and my 5-year-old daughter, Cherie. And then at the time, he was my husband, even though I was separated. So as you can imagine, at the age of 29, I had to, first of all, find a reason to be here because I didn't even want to wake up. And I did. I was going to grief groups and therapy and then back to bed. And I owned my own business and my family came in around my business for me because I was in bed every day. Grateful to so many people stepping up. I had friends that took weeks off of work and got me a place to live because this happened in my home in my master closet. And so I had nowhere to live. And it was an amazing outpouring of everyone. And one day I was at a grief group and there was this woman who had lost her son, committed suicide due to homosexuality. And another couple lost their son at just a weird accident. And they were sobbing every week, like week after week after week. And this woman was full of grace. And of course, we're all sobbing at times, but I loved the way that she handled herself. And then I found out that this couple's son had passed away 5 years earlier. And I was like, there's no way that I can go through this pain for 5 years and continue this every day. I made a decision right there that I was going to get through this grief and I was going to do it with grace and I was going to do it with empowerment and I was going to have a reason to live and give back. And so, Louie, that's what I do. I really believe in empowerment. And this is why I love you as being my client jumping on, because my advocate is for women, is for abused women, being growing up either in a dysfunctional childhood or emotional or physical abuse. I had 10 years of emotional abuse, which doesn't show black and blue anywhere, but I was still completely messed up. And that is my total passion every single day. I know that I am here to give this story to people, to let people know you can get through. You can get through it. And I give back every day. My children's birthstone was Diamond. So my business name is Diamond Life. So they're with us every day. And I just appreciate you and letting me share my story and any sites that I've grown, because I know I'm here for a reason.
Right. I love that. So I still, it chokes me up to hear your story. And my heart goes out to you. I can tell you, I'd like to say a couple of things. One of them is working with you. It's so unbelievable because you create a safe space, right? As a victim of child abuse myself, sexually, physically, mentally, emotionally, you've been able to let me express that in just this really safe environment. I'd like you to define a word for me. And it's one of my favorite words. And you used the word grace a couple of different times. I'd like you to share with everybody, what does the word grace mean to you?
I love that word. And I love it when you just said it. I love hearing it. I love saying it. And it's taken me, I'm 57, and I didn't know what grace was probably my whole life until my 50s. Like, I finally got to grace, and I see that grace for me is self-care, self-love. I am a Virgo, recovering perfectionist. I am now perfectly imperfect and freaking okay with that. So I give myself lots of grace every day of, you are perfect right where you're at. Everything is okay. You are not alone. Whatever your spiritual beliefs are, God, energy, higher power, Mother Earth, whatever we're not alone. There's grace in that. There's grace in being human, because we're not perfect and we're not supposed to be perfect. So I have to remember to love myself and give myself grace in the hard times. It's easy in the easy times, right? When money's flowing and you're getting all the love you want to get and everyone's happy and no one's crunchy and you get the parking spot when you want the parking spot. That's easy. But it's hard to give grace when you feel that you failed. My biggest wound is I don't want to be a failure. So when I know that I'm making a mistake or have had just made a mistake, to give myself grace to know that it's okay, that this too shall pass, and I'm perfectly imperfect, and I'm okay with that. Does that help, Louie?
Oh yeah, it's very. I think that's truly the wisdom for the ages, right? That's my dad used to say that all the time. This too shall pass. But I think that most of us are really good at giving love, but we don't give it to ourselves, right? And you really can't be. You're never going to be whole from anything outside. It's got to come from the inside, and that's very, very profound. And I'd like to kind of let that segue into what I find so amazing about you is you're like this triple threat in my mind. And I mean that sincerely, because you're this amazing person who, and for me, it's no longer male or female, right? You're just this person who's overcome pretty much as tough as it could get, right? And then, but you have this great dichotomy. You are very spiritual, and you're very centered in who you are and your faith and the belief in that energy and God and those types of things. But you're also this person who's really good on the analytical side with helping people invest their money and their financials and that kind of stuff. So if you could talk a little bit about how did that, and I'm also curious, how did that all converge for you? And was any of that convergence part of the healing process that helped you rise above the tragedy?
Absolutely. Great questions. So I've been on the masculine side of things, as you said, not, either side, but analytical my whole life. Virgo, numbers, my parents owned businesses. So I was always analytical about everything. It really did throw me for a loop when I had such emotions when my kids passed. I didn't know how to deal with that. So it did become part of who I am as being an emotional being. You can't go through something like that and not get triggered by a song or a little girl's voice or a movie or anything. So we are emotional beings. So once I came to myself with grace, understanding that I am an emotional being and it is okay to be authentic. It's okay for me to cry if I need to cry. It's okay for me to share, good and bad. And so all of this was all along the way during my healing for sure. And at the same time, I had to make money. I was a single mom. I did remarry for the audience. I was dating a gentleman at the time. That's a whole nother story, whole nother podcast. I did marry him and I had two beautiful children, Journey and Parker. They're 23 and 24, and woke up after 5 years and said, I don't know who you are, but get out of my life because I have to divorce you now because I just woke up out of my fog. So I did raise my kids as a single full-time mother, and I had to put food on the table. And so I kind of fell into the financial services world because I had always been a business owner and owned several businesses. And I got screwed financially. So I had to step into that and learn investments. And then I just knew it, like you said, analytically, that's just part of my brain, the way it works. But then a few years into it, I was working for a big wirehouse and somebody wanted to do an interview and said, do you want to share your story? And I had to make a decision because everybody tells you in the financial world, do not show emotion. There's no crying. You have to be the person, all of this analytical stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's not who I am. Like, it was going so polar opposite of who I am. I decided to do that interview and share my story. And so once I did that, then I am the emotional being. And my big tagline is everybody comes with Kleenex and water with me because you're going to cry with me, working with me, because it's just the way it is. Everyone's real and we all have a story, like you said. And we're going to heal that story along with our money. It actually is hand in hand. I cannot get you a 50% rate of return and have you be great with your money if you don't feel like you're worthy of the money that's coming in. So your emotional connection to yourself translates into your emotional connection with money. And I would be doing a disservice if I did not share that with my clients, put the money and the analytical with our emotional, and clear our beliefs like we always talk about.
Right. And I think, that's one of the things that I love about you is that you so easily flow back and forth and intertwine those things, right? Because I've learned through working with you over the last couple of weeks, I had some deep-seated, even subconscious thoughts about money that have surfaced that I wasn't even aware were there. And I also would like to share with you, I think you're so profoundly authentic and genuine, because I remember about a year after my dad died, I was doing like 75 miles an hour down the expressway, and this song comes on the radio, and I was just a sobbing, blubbering idiot because that song, it just all bang, right? And I think that there's great healing in that as well, especially for men who don't often go there. So I'd like to ask a couple questions before we get to leadership. One is, if somebody wanted to reach out to learn more or get in touch with you, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, Jennifer?
Best way is go to my website, www.jenniferjost.com, JENNIFER Jost.com. And there is a button right there that says free 30-minute chat. I am down to speak with anyone. Can you tell I've been with my 24-year-old daughter I'm down with? Okay, so let's get professional. I would be happy to sit and chat with anyone who wants to go to my website and schedule some time with me. We could talk about anything. We could talk about grief. We could talk about money. We could talk about subconscious beliefs. I do believe that when you are ready, your teacher will show up or your partnership will show up. So I like to just put myself out there. That's the best way to do that. And then they find out more about me. I do have my websites being redone right now, and they're still up and you can see them. But if there's technical difficulties, give me some grace because I have two different teams working on it.
Gotcha. So what would you say is a couple of things that you see on a pretty consistent basis working with people? Because I know you've told me you also work with couples who have challenges with their money. What are the couple of things that you see that are like kind of aha moments or breakthroughs for people?
So good. The number one thing that just popped into my mind, working with a couple actually kind of chatted with him and he said, fix my wife. That's as much as I worked with him. Then I was working with her. And we got down to the fact that she was the spender because she was rebelling against the way he was speaking to her about money. And it reminded her of her father. So it had nothing to do with her husband. It had everything to do with her childhood and how she grew up in her relationship with her father. So she was literally stomping her feet like a 12-year-old or a 9-year-old would do and spend money when she had no idea how it was really reflecting on him, to him. He was feeling like unloved, not heard, not taken seriously, not valued in the marriage. She had no idea she was hurting him so much because, as you said, men sometimes don't go there. You haven't been taught to go there. So he didn't even know the words to say, to share with her besides stop it, like stop spending money. And she needed to hear that he was really feeling unloved and not valued in this marriage. And as soon as she got the fact that it had nothing to do with her husband and she needed to do some work around releasing her relationship to her dad, their marriage is on fire right now. It's so awesome. I just saw a picture. I'm going to cry now because this is the fun, really, really fun part. But they went to the beach and they sent me pictures on the ocean and they're hugging and it's like, makes me so happy.
That's all. I actually, now I have a referral for you. Keep telling that story. I know somebody that could use a couple that could use you guys.
Okay,
so,
awesome.
Yeah. So before I ask the leadership question, is there anything else you'd like to share?
I just want to share, working with you has been such a gift for me, and I truly appreciate it. You're giving me a chance to show my gifts, but I really appreciate your vulnerability, your honesty, your effort to doing the work to do it. And that's what it takes. I'm doing nothing but supplying the space for you. And you are really just coming through with flying colors. And I just can't wait to see how everything unfolds in your life like this. And that's what it takes. We have to be willing. We have to be willing to get ready, to be ready, to be ready, to be ready. We're never there, right? We're like an artichoke. We're always peeling off our layers. And I say an artichoke because there's a little point at the end of almost every layer that we have to peel off.
Right.
But we have to be ready. And if we're not ready, we're not ready. And if you're ready, then great. Then we can get some work done and actually really have a good time.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think a lot of people sign up for programs or start a gym membership or hire a coach and then think that somebody's going to wave some magic wand and it's all going to be better. And I, one of my favorite quotes is by Jim Rohn: "You can't hire other people to do your push-ups for you." Right. And so it's the same thing. I think I think you should give yourself more credit because you're right. I'm doing the work, but it's because you're telling me exactly what exercises to do. Right. And you're giving me that guidance. And I want to repeat again, you are just such a kind, wonderful soul because you give the space for it to be safe and let that happen, right? Let it organically just blossom the way it's supposed to blossom. And I think that's what makes you so amazing, again, is that balance of both your spirituality and your analytical wisdom and the knowledge around numbers and money and how they're all really connected. And at the end of the day, everything's really connected anyway, right?
It is. You're absolutely right. And I thank you so much for all of your kind words here. It's making me feel a little overwhelmed, but I'm going to keep taking it. I'm going to keep receiving it because it feels really good. Yeah, it is. It is. Everything is connected. And as soon as we learn that, I mean, we're all connected. We're all connected. And as soon as we see that, it just makes our lives more full of joy. And it feels so good. Like, I love it.
Yeah. So now my favorite question is, and you've come from the ashes and you're the phoenix that's risen. What are 2 or 3 things you might share with the audience about leadership that you've learned about leadership that's helped you through your journey?
That's so great. Whew. So probably the first thing that I've learned is ask for help. I have spent tons of thousands of dollars on coaches and therapy, and I will always. There's always someone at the next level that I want to be at. And so I will always have a coach. So ask for help. I know we're supposed to be perfect and know it all, but we can't and we shouldn't and we don't want to. So ask for help to be doing something somewhere, personal, business, something. Another thing is for me, I mean, this is pretty vulnerable, right? We're being pretty vulnerable here.
Right.
We're not vulnerable in finance. Like vulnerable in finance doesn't go well.
So
So
just let me so you've got me reading a book, and I read just the other night that people would rather talk about sex and their kinky sex habits or their practices or preferences than talk about their money. That's really messed up.
it is so messed up and so true. Everybody has such an emotional stigma around their own money, the mistakes that they think they've made, where they think they should be, that it's really hard to discuss money for a lot of people. So I want to be able to give that safe space. And for me to be vulnerable and to share that where I've been, grief, loss, divorce, a widow, divorced twice, lost everything after 2010 during divorce, started over again. I am not the millionaire next door at 57, so I'm nowhere near perfect. I can help you, and I know that I'm amazing. And to be able to have that knowledge, like you said, on both sides of things, I think I'm pretty darn good. I think I'm a good powerhouse when it comes to money and your relationship to money, and to be able to share that as being a leader, and at the same time saying, hey, I screwed that up, I'm sorry. Like every day I look back and say, how could I have done that better? And if I have to pick up the phone to apologize to somebody, I pick up the phone to apologize to someone. But my team always knows my mission and where I'm going. So I'm always showing up ready for my team so they know my mission and where I'm at. Like my mother, unfortunately, just had a stroke last week, a few days ago. Her body's fine. Her mental is a little scrambled right now. So we're going to get her in a rehab. So that is an emotional thing that I've had to take care of this last week or so. I tell my team what's happening so they can hold me emotionally, but at the same time, I'm still stepping up. And I'm still saying, okay, this is where we're going. And again, we need grace and self-care. So if I need to step back and talk to doctors for an hour and a half, then I say, sorry, I need to talk to some doctors right now, and I'll be back here. So as a leader, we still need to show leadership, but we have to be authentic. I cannot go, oh my God, my mom had a stroke, so what's next? I mean, that's not real. So we have to be authentic in where our feelings are, and at the same time lead our team to where we follow our mission. Like everything that we do all day long goes down to my vision. And my vision is women and a good man, Louie, feeling worthy of their wealth and changing this world.
Yeah, and I think that you touched on a number of things. My gosh, you're just a wealth of information and knowledge and wisdom. And I think you touched on a couple of things. I think you're absolutely right. There's nobody that's ever done anything great without a team, right? And I think, and so leaders need to realize the importance of that team. And I love that you're talking about the importance of empowering your team with communication and your honesty. I think especially in the male-dominated business world still, there's too much of that egotistical, I'm the biggest dog in the room, I can't show weakness, that kind of stuff. And as well as, one of the things that I tell people, if you're working with a coach that doesn't have a coach, then they're going to dump their stuff on you, right? So I always tell people, right, always work with a coach that has a coach, because we should always, until the day we take our last breath, whether we're a leader or a coach or whatever it may be, we should be looking for that. And I love what you said. I think sometimes when people set goals for their team, they don't think about from here to here. They think about from here to the top of the mountain, right? And then there's this frustration and there's this disappointment. And I love what you said. Just start coaching with somebody that's a level up, and then go a level up, and then go a level up. And before you know it, you're starting to deal with some people who are really playing at the top of the mountain, and now you've really raised your game. So I really love your wisdom. You and I could go on for hours.
We could.
We could. But so I'd like to ask if you have anything else you'd like to add before we end for our session today.
So what's coming for me is the more joy we have every day. And if we take some time to let that joy in, that we will get the download of clarity of where we're supposed to go next. And so we don't have to struggle over decisions. We're not
Yeah.
alone.
Right. Yeah. And that's very true, right? Listen to the still quiet voice inside you, because I tell people, when you follow that voice, nothing bad ever happens. It's when you override that voice is when the proverbial stuff hits the fan, right? Then it's all out the window and you wonder, why am I suffering? Why me? Because you didn't listen to the little voice inside you.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So again, I want to thank you again so much. For those of you, what Jennifer was saying is, if you want to reach out to her, go to Jennifer Jost, JenniferJost.com, and you can reach out to her and set up a free 30-minute session. I can tell you it'll be transformational, fun, all kinds of great stuff. But Jennifer, from the bottom of my heart, I love you. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're busy, but thank you for adding so much value, and thank you for being you, and thank you for being so amazing and coming from where you have and being brave enough to share your story.
Thank you so much, Louie, for the space. I greatly appreciate it.
Yep. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.